is obviously a big part of everyone's daily ritual here. The fact that I have more chai tea than your regular tea, I think some people might say it's a bit scandalous, but the hot ones were the hot ones. My mum is somewhat addicted to tea, I would say. She really can't go without her tea whenever we're on holiday, and she has to go a few hours without a cup. It's not good at all. But that's one of the things she always says. It's one of her markers of whether a holiday home is a good place to stay or not. The marker is if when you arrive it has everything you need to put together a cup of tea, then it's a very good place. Because after a long day of travelling, by car or flying or by train, the first thing you want when you arrive is always a lovely cup of tea. And if you get to the place and they don't have things like tea bags or milk or sugar, then you're just gonna have to go without. And for people like my mum, that is just awful. I got for Christmas this year an advent calendar that has nothing but tea bags, which I thought was a very nice idea. But I'm afraid to say I learned in the process that I don't really like herbal teas, which is a real shame, I thought, because it was such a lovely idea to have a new cup of tea every day. I've also found it quite funny to know that Americans, they pronounce herbal tea herbal tea. I thought that was so funny. Like, why do people pronounce the things they pronounce the way they do? Herbal. Why? How did that happen? I also found it was funny because when I was in my first year of uni, I lived with some Americans, and they had a very different tea culture. Like for example, one of them would say, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And I'd say, "Sure, I'll have a cup of tea." And then they say, "What kind of tea would you like?" Now I know I just went on about how I like chai tea, but if someone says, "Would you like a cup of tea?" in the UK, most of the time you're just talking about tea, as in tea, black tea, or English breakfast tea, or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I never really know how to answer that, because I'd say, what kind of tea would I like? Just tea. And her like default tea was a mint tea. I'm not sure why it was a mint tea, but that was what she always went for. And I don't like mint tea at all. Looks like I'm doing some sort of weird clapping. Like this is what posh people do to clap. I don't know. It's a very low-key form of clapping. Well done, well done. just have cups of tea, like a lot. And tea doesn't have that much caffeine in it when compared to a cup of coffee. I always hear people talking about how tea has more caffeine in it than coffee as like a fun fact. But I always feel like that fact is really misleading, because what they're saying is per like 1 gram of coffee compared to like 1 gram of tea in its like form, like a tea leaf compared to a coffee bean. The coffee bean has less caffeine in it, and that is true. But that's not how we consume tea and coffee, because we dilute the tea very considerably by just sort of flavouring the water with tea. If that's not insulting to the tea world. Whereas with coffee, like say instant coffee, you're dissolving that coffee. So a cup of coffee compared to a cup of tea, the coffee definitely has the caffeine. But there is still quite a bit of caffeine in many cups of tea, which is what I used to drink. And yeah, I remember once I was doing a play with a theatre group, because I used to do a little bit of acting, and during one of the tech rehearsals, me and a friend decided that we were going to have a tea every time we came off stage. But obviously we'd be running these scenes over and over again, so we'd come off stage, have a cup of tea, go back on stage and do the scene again, come off stage, have another cup of tea. It was a lot of fun. I remember we'd shout across to each other, "Hey mate, what time is it?" And the other guy would go, "It's tea time." We were really, really cool back then. But yeah, I think I had 11 cups of tea during one rehearsal, and I started shaking on stage because I was so tired. I was so buzzed. But when I got really into tea, my friends were very supportive of my newfound affectation, I suppose it was, because I did make a big thing of it. And for my birthday, they got me tickets to a tea festival, which was we drove about an hour out of town to go to this festival, and it was like so funny. It was just lots and lots of stands, all selling different types of tea and different types of tea apparatus and teapots and teacups and they had like different stirrers for the tea. I remember seeing some they had like a tea that came in a tea bag that was like, it was like a stirrer tea bag. So you'd have your cup of water, hot water, you could put in your stirrer tea bag and stir it, and the strength of your tea that you wanted was determined by how long you'd stir it for. I mean, that was a bit of fun. That looked cool. But it took us about 45 minutes until we realised that if you just went up to any one of these stands and said, "Hey, can I have a cup of tea?" I'll just give you a cup of tea. So then, at first we were trying to look out for a freebie, but nowhere seemed to be advertising freebies. And that's because once you'd paid to get in, everywhere was giving out free tea. So I drank a hell of a lot of tea that day. And had a bit of a repeat of the tech rehearsal fiasco where I was shaken by the end. one of the things they had was a teapot that was apparently owned by, I think it was Admiral Nelson, and it was called a bachelor's teapot because it only had tea for one person. I thought that was pretty fun, pretty fun. There's a bit